Hello everyone, in this live stream, this is in part a test. I'm looking at the fact of seeing how OBS Studio works, and I figured I'd kill two birds with one stone here, because there's actually a lot I wanted to say on Vegas and a lot of things I kind of wanted to show a connection with, to an extent, to show that there definitely could be more to the story than what they're telling us. Now, one of the things that I want to start out by saying is that excuse me, I am a Second Amendment absolutist, and the way I look at it is the Founding Fathers knew of advanced weapons, which we're going to get into this, but further on here with the whole gun control aspect of this, but they knew that there was more advanced weapons than muskets, and they believed, and they wrote about this, but they try to say, oh, it's a lie. They physically wrote about the fact of why they created the Second Amendment, and first and foremost, it was the stopgap, the buffer to try to stop the government from going to the point of where it's going to get repressive and go after the people. That's the whole point of the Second Amendment, to stop something like that. Now, the thing is, now they're going to use this situation to exploit people's emotions and feelings to try to go after the Second Amendment, try to go after firearm ownership, which to the left, the idea of gun control is gun ban. They won't say it directly, but that's their idea of sensible gun control. The first thing we're going to do here is we're going to be taking a look at an article from the New York Times that was published on October 3rd by Jennifer Medina, Richard Perez Pena, and Adam Goldman. Las Vegas. Before he mowed down concert goers from a perch high in the hotel tower, Stephen C. Paddock created a ring of surveillance around him with video cameras in his suite and in the hallway, law enforcement officials said on Tuesday, but investigators were still at a loss to offer a motive for the massacre. Now, we're going to get into this a little bit further on, but it looks like he could have had ties besides Antifa, besides with them, also ISIS, which is a scary prospect. And the thing is, the New York Times isn't going to admit one of the reasons why this happened is because they, like the majority of the mainstream press, where it's, you know, left to far, far left, even the alternative press, I mean, outlets like the Young Turks, they're radicalizing these people. So they're creating a situation where these people end up thinking that everyone's a Nazi, okay, that's right of Marx. You know, that Antifa is actually a good thing. You know, because they're doing this, they're creating an environment of radicalization. But they're not going to admit this here. And with these possible ties to both, that could just mean that there's crossover with other people and or like whole groups of people, and that makes things even scarier. If Antifa and ISIS are going to work together, that's something that they're not going to be prepared for on the note of law enforcement. I really don't think they're going to be. The cameras apparently intended to warn of approaching threats, along with the 23 guns, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and other equipment found in the gunman's hotel suite, suggested that a thought-out plan to have plenty of time to wreak carnage while holding the police at bay. That's the thing. there is no reason even one lone individual, okay, armed to the teeth, is not going to have a need or a use for 23 guns. It would look suspicious. I mean, regardless, like you go further on in here. They talk about, oh, well, it wouldn't be conspicuous bringing in suitcases, okay, if you brought them in a few at a time or whatever. The thing is, in Las Vegas, they still look for stuff like that because back in the heyday of the porn industry, before equipment was shrunk down to, handheld size where you could do 4K with something in the palm of your hand. I mean, you're talking standard def and video and lights that are huge. So I mean, they would try to inconspicuously lug the stuff in. So they would do it in suitcases, and the way that the hotels would bust porn shoots is by literally watching like all these suitcases being brought to a suite or to a room. So to try to say that it wouldn't be conspicuous is a little bit funny because everything is monitored in Vegas. There are cameras everywhere. So no one in security noticed this guy constantly bringing up suitcases to his room. I find that hard to believe. So local and federal investigators were also eager to interview the gunman's girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, who had been in the Philippines, which we're going to get into the whole Philippines thing because one of his possible outlets for becoming radicalized could have been the Philippines itself or her, because they do have a radicalization problem with the Muslims there, and they're dealing with a lot of issues, which we're going to get into further. That's one of the reasons why I have tabs galore up top here. She arrived at Los Angeles International Airport on Tuesday night and was met by the authorities, according to a law enforcement official. Sheriff Joseph Lombardo of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said that at a minimum, she might shed some light onto what was going on through the mind of the gunman who killed himself as police prepared to enter the room, which this has now been contradicted by FBI sources that said that they killed him. So you have to start wondering where the facts end and the narrative begins. It's just one of those things where you don't trust, especially mainstream outlets and the government with what they report on the note of agencies these days. It's just you have a problem with trust when it comes from these people. 12 of the rifles Mr. Paddock had in his luxury suite on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino were outfitted with a bump stock, a device that enables a gun to fire hundreds of rounds per minute, like a machine gun, which may explain how he was able to rain such devastation on the crowd below. Law enforcement officials said, okay, yeah, well, it's not illegal, but they're going to demonize it. Such devices are generally illegal, and the possibility that they may have used them to set off a fresh round of call... I love this. Already, right here, they're demonizing it. Such devices are generally legal, and the possibility that he may have used them set off a fresh round of calls by Democratic lawmakers in Washington to pass more gun regulations after the tragedy. Now, the thing is, we already have a lot of gun regulations. There is no loophole for strawman buying or gun shows or anything like that. You have to pass a background check. So any more regulation wouldn't have really done anything to prevent this. What could have helped to prevent this is the left, like the politicians and the press, not going and doing the Chicken Little. The sky is falling, so that people like this guy, which they're not reporting on this fact. I got to give Stephen Molyneux credit for this. He covered this. psychotic spray and pray gunman here. His father was a bank robber that was on the FBI most wanted list, who was diagnosed as a psychotic with suicidal tendencies. I mean, that really can't be a good thing for an environment to be, growing up in. So that and the genetic factor, I mean, could have led to this situation, besides the radicalization, groups like Antifa and ISIS. I mean, this guy was just basically a pressure cooker, it looks like, about ready to explode, and they just cranked up the heat on him. At 10:07 p.m. on Sunday, the gunman opened fire on thousands of people attending a country music festival a few hundred yards northeast of the hotel, firing long, rapid-fire bursts as people screamed and ran for their lives. Oh, excuse me. He killed 59 people. The coroner clarified on Tuesday that the number included Mr. Paddock, along with his 58 victims, and wounded hundreds of others. In all, more than 500 people were injured, most by gunfire, and some in the panicked rush to escape. Well, the thing is when you have a victim count like this, and there was a story, I looked at Archive IS for the older version of it, but it doesn't appear to have been archived there, where you actually have an Australian national who was in Vegas talking about how he was in the room next door and it was two gunmen. Now that's all of a sudden removed, and it makes you wonder, because when you have a situation like that, you don't know what to trust. You don't have, whether it's, a lack of fact or a lack of trust in who's presenting quote-unquote facts. I mean, there's a lot of issues in how people receive their information these days, and it's why the alternative media is doing so well now. So, in all, more than 500 people were injured, most by gunfire, some by the panic rush to escape. Yep. So, of course, there's going to be injuries from the panic rush, the panic and the rushing to escape. I mean, you actually had people who didn't budge. This is one thing I found funny watching video on this, getting prepared to do this stream, and just getting more information on this in general. You had people there in a group, one of them actually vaping, and they didn't give a shit until literally a round ricocheted off the ground right next to him. Oh, God. It just goes to show the intellect and intelligence of some people in this country when you're in the middle of a situation like that and you're just going to stand there and shoot the shit with each other, vaping away. Oh, we definitely don't have some bright people in this country. President Trump, who's expected to visit Las Vegas on Wednesday, said on Tuesday that Mr. Paddock was a sick man, a demented man, adding that we are dealing with a very, very sick individual. He said there would be some discussion about firearms legislation, but not specific. Now, this is the thing, and I have to agree with Bannon on this, and we're going to go over to an article on what he said about this. If Trump even remotely considers any type of legislation on the note of firearms, he's going to lose his core base. So he can have a choice of either appeasing the Dems, which he's been doing a bit lately, or, to some extent, because he's letting them believe certain things. Now, whether he follows through is a different story. But on this note, if he were to do this, he would lose his core, and there would be no way with his core base being gone from this if he were to propose or sign into law any legislation. If that were to happen, he wouldn't have a second term. So what he needs to do is stop listening to the people that have taken over the, voice of others in the White House, because you got Bannon gone. The president's, former long-term personal security guy. I mean, you just have all these people that had his ear that are out of there that would be going, no, don't even be looking at that or thinking of that, and let him realize that, yeah, that'd be a bad idea. I mean, the only ones from his inner circle that are still there are his daughter and her shit brick of a husband. And I think the reason why is because, you've got Ivanka, she's friends with Chelsea Clinton, Kushner, he's, a globalist shit pig. So they're kind of with the program. And that's fine because they're going to sway his opinion towards, those ideals that they believe, which kind of go along with the deep state and the globalists and all that. So, I mean, here he is. He says this as he's prepared to leave Washington for hurricane battered Puerto Rico. So, moving on here. Police officials said that Mr. Paddock, 64, had set up 2 cameras in the hallway, including one on a service cart and a third camera over the suite door peephole. The thing I get a kick out of with this, okay, is no one from the hotel staff noticed that this cart was just sitting there for God only knows how long. I don't buy it, because you have staff going through and grabbing things like that. You have staff on cameras with security. No one's going to notice him setting up a camera on the cart. They have cameras literally everywhere except in your rooms. And honestly, with the way Vegas is, who knows, they might. So there is no way that he just set this up like this and it just sat there for God only knows how long. I just don't buy it. I mean, there's so much to question here. It's like common sense and logic. I anticipate he was looking for anybody coming to take him into custody, the sheriff said. According to a law enforcement official who was not authorized to discuss the matter publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity. Oh, God, the leftist mainstream outlets, well, I should say left to far left, because this isn't exactly leftist, but them and their anonymous sources spoke on the condition of anonymity here. So investigators also were looking into whether Mr. Paddock had planned an early attack in Las Vegas before deciding to target the concert Sunday night. They have no proof of this, but hey, okay, sure, distract from the actual facts of the situation. Mr. Paddock checked in on Thursday and kept the Do Not Disturb sign on his door for the next 3 days, so no maids enter the rooms, according to a hotel worker, who was also not authorized to discuss the matter. Housekeepers are allowed to enter the room with such a sign only in the presence of a security guard, and it happens rarely, usually after several days, the worker said. Now, what gets me about this is the day that they say they checked in and the day that hotel staff said that they served him don't coincide. Neither does the receipt for it, which the receipt also shows that there was 2 people in the room. So that's another point with this, where there's some contention. There's some questioning that needs to be done. The hotel staff is trained to look for anything suspicious, but the gunman's behavior did not set off any alarms, the employee said. He had at least 10 suitcases in his room. 10! 10 suitcases! The sheriff had said, which might have been used to bring the guns in without notice. But the hotel worker said it would have been easy to bring them into a room a few at a time without arousing suspicion. Which, as I said earlier, I call bullshit. Because in Vegas, with cameras everywhere, the hotel staff trained for back in the day, you're going to have some head of security that was around back then and going to say, wait a minute, no, red flag. That's still going to set off someone's red flag. I don't care what anybody says, but let's just take the word of some lowly bus boy, or a maitre d' who probably's never worked in that, part of the hotel itself. But yeah, because, you don't name your sources ever, New York Times, it seems, anymore. Semi-automatic rifles, like those the gunman had, are made to fire a single round with each pull of the trigger. But recording and witness accounts of the shooting made clear that Mr. Paddock was firing much faster, at a rate comparable to that of a fully automatic weapon, which quickly fires round after round with a single pull of the trigger. Yeah, that's the thing. They are trying to say, okay, well, look at all the extra bullets. If he could have still done the same type of damage in another way. If someone's going to kill, they're going to kill. Look at the Ariana Grande concert. Okay, no gun, explosives, killed a lot of people. So, yeah, let's not bring the fact of the type. It's the person, not how they do it. Okay, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Under Sheriff Kevin McMahill of Las Vegas Police said that Mr. Paddock fired on the concertgoers for 9 to 11 minutes and about a dozen bursts. Again, going to the fact of, looking at that, why would he have all these guns? If he's planning on making an escape, he's planning on being able to fend off, police or security coming in to get him. It's not the amount of weapons he has. It's the amount of ammunition he has. Okay, with maybe a backup weapon of 2. He doesn't need a backup weapon, a backup weapon or 6 or 8. He does not need that many weapons, which kind of makes you wonder on the story, because there's no need for that. That type of weaponry, the number of it, the amount, I should say. That's an environment, a situation where you're looking at more than one person. It just doesn't make any sense. Replacing the standard rifle stock, which rests against the user's shoulder, with a bump stock like the ones Mr. Paddock had, allows a semi-automatic rifle to fire much more rapidly, like an automatic, firing hundreds of rounds per minute. The devices are usually legal and inexpensive, with some versions advertised for $99. Yeah, and the funny thing is they've been out for a very long time now, several years. I'm thinking, what is it now? I'm trying to remember. It's like probably close to 6 to 10 years, if not, 6 if not a decade. And nothing like this has happened before. So a lot of people have purchased them. There's a market for them. And this is the first incident where they were used. But we're going to hold it up as the poster child for, gun control and, let's see, limiting people's purchases on the note of accessories for their firearms. A bump stock allows the body of the rifle to slide a short distance back and forth, harnessing the recoil energy of each shot. The weapon bounces or bumps rapidly between shoulder and finger, essentially creating the action of repeated trigger pulls without the gunman having to move the trigger finger. And look whose name is brought up next. Senator Dianne Feinstein of California, a Democrat, has called for years for a ban on bump stocks, and she's renewed that call on Tuesday, writing on Facebook, "This is the least we should do." Congressional Democrats asked their Republican counterparts to establish a special committee to investigate gun violence, which they want to recommend gun control. And what does the left consider gun control? Outright bans. Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican Majority Leader, rebuffed questions about potential legislative action during his regular news conference Tuesday afternoon, saying that the massacre was being politicized. And he's 100% right. I don't really agree with McConnell on a lot of things. He's a neocon. I'm a constitutionalist libertarian like the Founding Fathers, but this I can agree with him on. It's being politicized. Plain and simple. Look, the investigation's not even being completed, Mr. McConnell said, and I think it's premature to be discussing legislative solutions if there are any. Exactly. Senator John Thune, the third-ranking Republican in the Senate, told an NBC News reporter that lawmakers ought to take a look at conversion kits that can make guns more lethal, but Mr. Thune also suggested little could be achieved through legislation. And he's right, because there is such a belief in the Second Amendment and a gun culture in this country. And I'm not talking the way the left calls a gun culture. I'm talking about the culture, like, on the note of being part of our history. You know, for independence, you know, the nation fighting for independence, the Civil War, the Wild West. I mean, just on a note of historical military aspects, you have a lot of history. The Wild Wild West, which is more, you know, civilian, you have a lot of history. And the thing is you are not going to remove that from the culture. No matter how hard you try, it's not going to happen. Mr. Paddock was an avid gambler who often bet heavily at the major casino hotels, and Miss Danley, 62, had worked for some of those hotels. They lived in Mesquite, Nevada, 80 miles northeast of Las Vegas, and he also owned a home in Reno. I mean, for a guy who's a heavy gambler, he seems to have some decent finances to have a home in multiple homes and stuff like that. And as we'll see, wire $100,000 to quote unquote his living girlfriend. But if you look at things and contextually, it makes you want to go, huh? And we're going to get into this when it comes to her nation of origin and her leaving the country and him wiring a bunch of money. It's just, yeah, it'll have you going. There should be more investigation into these aspects. At least it did for me. The police have found a total of 47 firearms in his 2 houses and his hotel suite. Oh, excuse me. Which, to me, 47 firearms is not cheap. So, where's this guy getting all of his money? Where's the IRS in this? They haven't chimed in on what he's made for income, what he's reported. Where's the money coming from? I don't necessarily think this all came out of his pocket here. I mean, this guy doesn't sound like a rich man. Jill A. Snyder, the special agent in charge of the San Francisco office of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, said that almost all have been traced and that they have been bought in Nevada, Utah, California, and Texas. Leaked photos that showed parts of the scene inside and outside the hotel suite, including Mr. Paddock's body, his rifles, and spent ammunition shells on the floor, began circulating online Tuesday. What can I tell you? What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it, Sheriff Lombardo said of the leaks with his agent, which his agency was investigating. Well, yeah, they don't want excuse me, leaks getting out there. They don't want information getting out there because if it gets out there, they can't spin a narrative. They can't say, well, this happened, and then have someone go, oh, but this picture kind of contradicts that. They just can't have that. That's the problem with the internet now for them. You know, things like that. And people just not being able to keep their mouths shut. I mean, the guy's dead. It's not like they're going to be prosecuting him, you know? So why are they so concerned about the information being leaked? The police did release a video, a compilation of footage from officers' body cameras showing the chaos as Mr. Paddock began firing on the crowd. Hey, you guys, get down, one officer shouted at a bystander between volleys of gunfire. There are gunshots coming from over there. Go that way. Amid confusion about where the blasts were coming from. Some people rebuffed requests to evacuate. That's fireworks, one shouted at an officer. Another yelled expletives. As sirens blared and gunfire crackled, the video showed officers straining to find the source of the shots. Which is kind of funny because you're in a relatively dark environment and you can't follow the muzzle flash. Okay. I don't see how you could have, like, I mean, you should have been able to pinpoint where he was pretty quickly. When you're firing round after round like he was, it's going to be a bit of muzzle flash. Hey, they're shooting right at us, guys, one officer said as he and his colleagues crouched behind a wall with their weapons drawn. Everybody stay down, stay down. North of Mandalay Bay, it's coming out of a window, another officer said. Law enforcement officials have said that they are confident that Mr. Paddock, who had no prior criminal record, was the sole gunman on Sunday, though the Islamic State group has claimed that he was one of its followers. Officials say that they have found no evidence so far that he had ties to any extremist group. Yeah, so far, things are looking like he probably did. I mean, you've got an FBI agent reporting that there was Antifa literature all over the place, which to me is kind of suspicious. If it's coming from a credible source, like an actual FBI agent, and he saw that, to me, that's a situation of plant. It's create a narrative. Because why would he bring a shit ton of Antifa, you know, propaganda with him? It just doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. They're talking about him wanting to escape, but it doesn't seem like he wanted to, because if you're going to barricade yourself into a room and put cameras all over the place, you're not looking to get out. There's so many contradictions in this article. It's not even funny. And the thing is he's got no ties, but he's got a Filipino national living girlfriend who, right before this, took off to the Philippines and he wired $100,000 to. That seems a little friggin' suspicious to me. But Mr. Lombardo stressed that investigators were still looking into what roles others might have played. I assure you, this investigation is not ended with the demise of Mr. Paddock, he said. Asked if Miss Danley was considered a suspect, he said currently she's a person of interest. And damn right she should be. Officials with the Philippine Immigration Bureau and the Aviation Police said Miss Danley flew on Tuesday from Manila to the United States. Okay, well, I think she's probably thinking that she can just play stupid. But I think she was like the mule for the money, and I got a feeling, watch, this is just, you know, spitballing here a little bit. But I got a feeling that $100K, it probably ended up in ISIS's hands in the Philippines, because you do have ISIS in the Philippines currently. Mr. Paddock recently wired thousands of dollars to the Philippines, but it was not clear who the recipient was. Thousands. Try 100,000. I love how they're playing that down. He wires $100K. Oh, it's just thousands. No, it's 100,000. That's quite a bit of money. That's enough money to wreak a shit ton of havoc if you're ISIS. His work history was not completely clear. His brother has described him as a wealthy retiree. Yet he's got a very bad gambling problem that you're basically trying to say. That he's a heavy gambler, and gamblers don't win. You know, everyone knows the casino wins. So your narrative is just not exactly fitting. Do you guys even spend 5 minutes to think about these things? Seriously. I mean, this is pathetic. Mr. Paddock worked for the federal government for roughly 10 years, from 75 to 85. A spokeswoman for the Office of Personnel Management confirmed. Okay, so he's got 10 years in the government, didn't put in enough time for a pension, but he paid in to, at that time, I think they switched over. So he paid in to the government employee equivalent of Social Security. Probably Social Security to a point. So he isn't rich from that. Where the hell is he wealthy from? He's a gambler. He ain't freaking winning, I bet. Investigators unearthed multiple job applications with Mr. Paddock's fingerprints on file as part of records reflecting his employment as a letter carrier for the Postal Service in the mid-1970s, as an Internal Revenue Service agent from 78 to 84, and as an auditor focused on defense contracts, a job he held until 1985. He also worked in the 1980s for one of the companies that later combined to form Lockheed Martin, the aerospace contractor. Okay. Having family that's worked for the DOD, this thing of him being an auditor on defense contracts, he has to have government clearance, which means they had to have done an extensive background check, which means they're going to look at his mental state, things like that. So, yeah, we have a situation here where he passed those qualifications back then, but I mean, he's kind of got this classic thing of sociopath, psychopath, not being able to hold a job, or at least they're trying to portray that with his government aspect. Because why aren't they talking about the rest of his employment history? Tax records are public. They can't go and look and see what other employers he's had. It's just, let's talk about the government and put that psychopath, you know, the drifter, can't hold a job perception out there. Because that allows them to sell that this wasn't a terrorist attack against conservatives. After people like the reporters and editor here at New York Times and those at CNN, MSNBC, and all the like, just like them, okay, they all radicalized people like this guy. They radicalized the guy that shot up the Republican baseball practice. They did it here. And they're just trying to avoid the whole situation. Now, moving on here, I love how they're trying to portray the girlfriend, Mary Lou. Okay, I love how the headline here, and they make this, and look at, this is actually a long article. And it reiterates a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot of what the other article had. So, and then they throw in unrelated stuff, but they could have made this, you know, like the headline, for example, could have been, the president met with victims of the attack. Okay? If it was Obama, that's exactly what they would have done. They would have said, yep, look it, president meeting with the victims. Instead, because they're trying to push this narrative and make her look like she's not part of this, Las Vegas shootings, you know, shooting. Gunman's girlfriend said she didn't know he planned harm. Sure. So, you've got New York Times here, starting off with that, and they're going by a public statement that was made through her attorney, and that she had no clue that he was wiring the money and all this other stuff. I mean, that kind of makes you look guilty, no offense, but if you've got nothing to hide and you didn't know, if you could make the statement yourself. You don't need to be hiding behind the attorney. I mean, it's just fucked up. I mean, because, I mean, she's a person of interest, and they're trying to claim here in this story. I love this. It was released as authorities sought her insight into what prompted a man with no evident criminal history to become a mass murderer. Well, let's look at his family history on the note of the genetic aspect and upbringing. As Molyneux had reported and exposed, his father was a psychopath with suicidal tendencies that robbed banks. Not exactly great upbringing. That's gonna fuck with your head. And then there's the genetic aspect of that fucking with your head. So, sure, there's no reason. Now, I love this. She stressed that she returned to the United States voluntarily because I know that the FBI and the Las Vegas Police Department wanted to talk to me and I wanted to talk to them. Now, she didn't fucking say a damn word. This was all done through her attorney, so I want to know how she stressed. Because there's no way that she stressed. The attorney, on the other hand, maybe they stressed. Or are you just making stuff up like, you know, you're known to do, New York Times? I mean, this is like the type of stuff here, okay? The guy had no escape. Yet, in this article, okay, the authorities found evidence that the gunman, Stephen Paddock, planned to escape after shooting and survive. Sheriff Joseph Lombardo of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said at a news conference on Wednesday evening. There is no way he thought he was getting out of there alive. You're on the 32nd floor. The only way he would be able to get out of there alive would be as if he managed to get to another window on the floor, okay, because directly under him, where you shot him out, you've got people down there. There's no way he would get out of it. And then maybe rappel down. That would probably be one of the only ways he would be able to do it. And I don't see him thinking that far ahead. I don't see him thinking that elaborately. But they're trying to make him sound like some freaking mastermind. Oh, excuse me. I mean, look at... They don't know what the hell... You know... To think of the situation. They have no information to really work off of at this point. They're desperate. I mean, look at this. I mean... They're trying to find anyone that crossed his path. Anyone. You know, you've got McCabe, who's the deputy director of the FBI that was, you know, he said this at a cybersecurity conference in Boston, which I don't understand how this is relevant. But the killer is an individual who is not on our radar or anyone's radar prior to the event. He's not even there. He's not part of the investigation. This is kind of, let's poison the well. It's clearly that. I mean, you've got it in the New York Times, and then you've got him saying, oh, I'm not on the radar. Bullshit. Like the FBI tried to claim with the Boston Marathon bombers. You really pissed off a lot of us New Englanders there, FBI, when you tried to claim that shit and you were proven full of it. And how, oh, we never had any indication. And the Russians are going, no. We handed you a ton of shit that warned you that these guys were going to go and do something. And you were, oh, no, nothing to see here. We never received that. Okay, well, I think that could be one reason why you got to bug up your ass with Russia, you freaking FBI morons. Or at least some of you do. I love this. So we really have a challenging bit of detective work to do here. I mean, this is complete poisoning of the well. I mean, no links to terrorism have been found, the FBI say. Really? You got FBI people, you know, agents leaking that there was ISIS shit plastered all over the room, like just, you know, the way it sounds like just willy-nilly just tossed all over the place. You got ISIS making claims, and ISIS generally doesn't make a claim unless they have some form of a tie, even if it is they were, used as a means of radicalization, like, say, an ISIS video or something like that. They'll own that shit. But yet, there's no ties. Okay? I love this. Mr. Rouse said at a news conference on Wednesday evening that agents were pursuing several theories about what may have motivated Mr. Paddock. Oh, let's just look. Okay, he's left, went to far left. I'm sure someone's gone through Facebook, if he's got it, Twitter, whatever, and looked at what he's liked and so on and so forth. And I bet you the press is going to be a major factor in his radicalization and what motivated him. Sheriff Lombardo seems skeptical that Mr. Paddock moved the guns into his hotel suite by himself. Exactly. And as I said before, I wish I had freaking saved a copy of that article. You have the individual in it, the Australian national, going, I'm in the room next door to him. There was more than one person. Sounds to me like that's pretty credible. Sounds to me like that would be someone at the, FBI and Las Vegas PD and Sheriff's Department would want to get their hands on to question. Yeah, I'm just saying. More than 20 guns and thousands of rounds of ammunition were recovered in the suite. Yeah, how the fuck did he lug that all in there? I mean, I could see, a couple handguns, couple rifles, and then several, we'll say 1,000 rounds. I mean, because you could literally, in a couple suitcases, carry in everything you would need for a standoff as one person. You don't need 20 friggin' guns. They had been brought into the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in at least 10 suitcases, the authorities said. It was troublesome that he was able to move this much gear into the hotel unassisted, the sheriff said. Well, go ask an old-timer if you got any left in the sheriff's department, or say the retired, sheriff himself, about the good old days of the porn industry in Vegas. He'll tell you the same thing I said. That's how they busted people, was them bringing suitcases in. So, it not arousing suspicion, is complete horse shit. Horse shit. A leaked photograph of the gunman's hotel suite appears to show a piece of paper on a table. Asked about the note, the sheriff said it was not a suicide note. Yeah, well, of course not. Law enforcement officials said on Tuesday that ammonium nitrate had been recovered from Paddock's car at the Mandalay Bay. Okay. They're also saying that the car contained other explosives, 50 pounds of tannerite, a non-flammable exploding target used for practice, and 1,600 rounds of ammunition. I love how they're calling ammunition explosives. They generally don't explode. Well, not like a boom take you out explode. It's more of a controlled explosion that launches a projectile. There's a difference. Now we get into the girlfriend didn't know he was planning violence. I mean, just come on now. That was kind of like the lead in here, but you had all this other shit before it. I mean, of course they're going to make it sound like, they're trying to, oh, wow, the narrative they're trying to push here. I mean, I knew Stephen Paddock as a kind, caring, quiet man. I loved him and hoped for a quiet future together with him, Miss Danley said in her statement. It never occurred to me, in any way whatsoever, that he was planning violence against anyone. That sounds like a fucking attorney wrote it. which of course the attorney wrote it. But yet you're going to pass it off as, oh yeah, she didn't know. No. She isn't trying to cover her ass right now. Her trip to the Philippines and the wiring of the $100,000 is just a little bit friggin' suspicious. But oh no, nothing to worry about, nothing to see over there. Oh yeah, nothing to look at on the note of her. New York Times, you're disgusting. You are freaking disgusting. Miss Daly said she was grateful to Mr. Paddock for the trip to the Philippines, her native country, to visit family, but when he wired her money, which she said was for me to buy a house for me and my family, she feared that it was his way of breaking up with me. No, he's not gonna... Bullshit! He's not gonna give you $100,000 to break up with you, okay? Guys, do not give gifts. Especially $100,000 as a gift when they're breaking up with you. I smell bullshit. Miss Daly boarded a flight from Manila to Los Angeles on Tuesday, according to Antoinette Mangrobang, a spokeswoman for the Philippine Immigration Bureau. Yep. Well, she made it here, and she's already trying to play the sympathy card. She showed up, and she's having to be in a wheelchair. And I love this one. The authorities who met Miss Daly at the Los Angeles airport have called for a person of interest in the shooting. Have called her a person of interest in the shooting investigation, which does not necessarily mean that she's a suspect of committing a crime. She was out of the country when the shooting occurred. Oh my God! New York Times is trying to be like, oh yeah, nothing to see here. Yeah, she's just a person of interest. Usually persons of interest, they turn into suspects. Nice try. I mean, they're talking about her coming out of a side exit here. I love how they're taking hearsay and they're trying to slant shit here. I mean, the brother, okay, which I want to show this. I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'm probably really not going to show much of it. But Bombard's body language. She does a really good job of breaking it down. And they talked to the brother for a half hour, and like they did an interview with the brother, like the press, for a half hour. And I don't know. He ain't letting on to all the facts, and I just don't trust him when it comes to what he's talking about his brother. But from what she's saying, from the shorter version of the interview that she went over, I mean, he knew something was not right with his brother. I mean, when you grew up in the same environment as he did, and you watched what your father did, how he acted, so on and so forth, you're kind of going to have a clue. And I'm thinking he knew from that aspect. But I love how, from him, she had told him not to panic and that she had a clean conscience. Well, a fucking jihadi is going to have a clean conscience after killing that many people or being involved in the killing of that many people. So that might not be a false statement if she is because they don't talk about what part of the Philippines that she was in, where the money was wired, because I got a feeling, watch, if you did, it's probably the Southern Philippines, and that's Muslim territory. Just saying. Miss Daly met Mr. Paddock when she was working at a Nevada casino, and he was a high-limit player, casino employees said. She worked at the Atlantis Casino Resort Spa in Reno from 2010 to 2013, according to her LinkedIn account. They're so desperate for information to try to portray her in a certain light that they're going to LinkedIn. Okay, New York Times. So, did you put as much into trying to find information on her to try to slant things a certain way, like you did? Did you do anything comparable to like PewDiePie? Because I don't know, man. I don't know here. They bring up useless information about how they met, and then they get into the president met with the victims of the attack. And look at how small and short this is, which goes to show the bias of the New York Times. It really does. Mr. Trump spent 4 hours in Las Vegas on Wednesday, including paying tribute to the professionalism of the doctors who treated the Las Vegas shooting victims. He said that meetings with the patients at one hospital made him proud to be an American. And I love how they go, oh, well, he only spent, he only spent 4 hours. Okay, Obama would fly in, land the plane, go do a quick speech, be like, well, my fellow Americans, this was a tragedy, and he would exploit it, and they would talk about gun control, and then he would fucking hop in the limo and go right back to the plane. He would only stop there to make a fucking speech. He wouldn't even talk to anyone. But yet, they're going to try to make this sound like, Trump's an asshole. I'm sure of it. The president said he met with some absolutely terribly wounded patients and hailed their bravery during the horrific attack Sunday night. He said many of those he met were wounded as they sought to help others amid the hail of bullets from the shooter in the nearby hotel. Wow, so far so good. They haven't really done that. In brief remarks to reporters before meeting with law enforcement officials in Las Vegas, Mr. Trump said, I think the only message I can say is that we are with you 100%. Okay, so far so good, yeah. A total of 489 people were injured in the attack. 317 have been released from the hospital, Sheriff Lombardo said Wednesday evening. Then they get into the body camera footage. Then they get into the whole stockpiled weapons thing. Mr. Paddock, 64, had been buying weapons since 1982, including 33 in the past year. I love how they go back to 82. He bought, because he probably bought some, sold some, things like that. So they're trying to make it sound like he's got this like huge freaking cash. Alright, they're trying to make him sound like, he's the stereotypical right-leaning, disaster fucking preparing for gun-toting, gun-toting gun nut, of the right. That's that. But this guy's a fucking left. It's hilarious. So, including through this past year, okay, Jill A. Snyder, the special agent in charge of the San Francisco office of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, told CBS on Wednesday. Yeah? If that was the case, then you would have directly quoted it. So, I'm going to call bullshit. I don't think she said exactly that. Also, I mean, like I said, weapons could have been bought and sold in that time. You're just trying to make it sound like, ooh, look at all the guns he bought. He might not own all of them, though. After such purchases would set off any alarms, she clarified that the Bureau would not have been alerted. The Gun Control Act of 1968 requires sellers to report the sale or disposition of 2 or more handguns to the same buyer, only if those purchases occur at the same time or within 5 business days of each other. There is no federal law requiring sellers to alert the Bureau to the sale of multiple rifles, which there shouldn't even be a federal law to alert the federal government if someone buys 2 guns in a week, or 2 guns in a day, or 2 guns in a month, or 2 guns ever, 2 or more. That should never be a law. That violates that violates the spirit of the Second Amendment, because you have the right to bear arms. The government should know what arms you have, okay, or that you're purchasing them at all, period. As I said, I'm an absolutist. 12 of the rifles Mr. Paddock had in his luxury suite on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino were outfitted with a bump stock. Are you fucking kidding me? If you do the math on how much this shit would cost him, oh, excuse me, how much money he shelled out to the girlfriend. They're just trying to portray him as wealthy. But yet, he couldn't keep a steady fucking job, according to the New York Times here. Which is it? I don't buy this shit. Okay, and even if he went with the cheap bump stocks, which, as they've said and we've already seen, they say go for $100 a pop, we'll say. That's $1,200 just in bump stocks for weapons he's not even going to use, because two more hands, you know, you need a backup, maybe, you know, 2 pistols and a backup, something like that. Yeah, this just makes no sense. There's so much invested into weaponry here that he would have gone through so much money that the bank would have probably alerted the federal government. Because, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of thousands of dollars. And as his brother said, he only owned a couple guns prior to this point. So, okay, had a bump stock, a device that enables a gun to fire like a machine gun. Talking about it again, with hundreds of rounds per minute, which may explain how he was able to rain such devastation on the crowd below, law enforcement officials said. And I love this. They go back into the whole fucking, you know, gun control thing. Watch. Such devices are generally legal, and the possibility that he may have used them to set off a fresh round of calls by Democrat lawmakers in Washington to pass more gun regulations after the tragedy. Semi-automatic rifles, like those the gunman had, are made to fire a single round with each pull of the trigger, but recordings and witness accounts of the shooting made it clear that Mr. Paddock was firing much faster at a rate comparable to that of a fully automatic weapon, which quickly fires round after round with a single pull of the finger. Now, give your readers some credit on intelligence. Alright? Simple concept. Semi-automatic, fully automatic. Semi, pull the trigger, fire once. Fully, you pull the trigger and it'll keep spitting out bullets until you run out of them. Don't play your friggin' audience like they're fucking morons. That's so annoying. That's just so fucking annoying. Under Sheriff Kevin McMahill of the Las Vegas police said that Mr. Paddock fired on the concert goers for 9 to 11 minutes. Yeah. The police have found a total of 47 firearms in his 2 houses. Yeah. Mr. McCabe of the FBI, he's a deputy director, why don't you say what it is, dismissed the dubious claims of responsibility, a reference to statements from the Islamic State group claiming that the killer was one of its followers, and said that investigators are seeking actual indicators of motive and intent. Yeah, because, you know, these deep state fucks don't want it to actually come out that he probably had ties with them. I mean, you've got a situation where you've got a man who is coming from an environment, at least, you know, on the note of what he grew up in, and the genetic aspects of his father. When you have those things, yeah, this guy was a powder keg just waiting to be set off. And I love this, the deeper portrait of the gunman's life emerging. Mr. Paddock could be imperious and demanding, expecting other people to wait on him, according to people who knew him. But his youngest brother said he was different with Miss Danley. She was probably one of the only people I've ever seen that he'd go out of his way to do a little thing for, said Eric Paddock, who lives in Florida. He went out of his way to be nice to her. This is not something Steve does, go out of his way. I love this. They're trying to humanize him. They're trying to humanize a mass murdering piece of shit. New York Times, you are disgusting. You're trying to justify the whole punch Nazi mentality of this by going, well, look, he's a nice, he was nice to her. I mean, you're trying to humanize him. It's disgusting. How about this? The gunman was a professional gambler who routinely won and lost thousands of dollars at casinos in Reno and Las Vegas, which often provided him free rooms. He was a math guy, Eric Paddock said. He could tell you off the top of his head what the odds were, down to 0.1% on whatever machine he was playing. Still ain't going to mean he's going to end up supporting himself this way. He, I'm sure, was wiping out money left, right, and center and not winning as nearly as much as he was putting out. So to try to portray him as a, professional gambler playing slot machines and video poker is fucking hilarious. Maybe, just maybe, if he was a fucking poker player and was doing Texas Hold'em, maybe you could call him a professional gambler if he won some things. But playing the fucking machines is a sucker's racket. So he's a professional loser. He ain't making money. Nice try. I mean, this is disgusting. But I mean, anyway, they go on and they try to portray him as, I mean, look at this. Stephen Paddock was the eldest of 4 boys who grew up angry after their father vanished from their lives, but he was the least angry of the group, said another brother, Patrick Paddock. He said for years their mother, who struggled to support them on their own, hid from them the fact that their father, a bank robber, had gone to prison, so they had no idea who he was. Bullshit. I'm sure they had an idea. My brother was the most boring one in the family, he said of Stephen. He was the least violent one in the family over 30-year history, so it's like, who? Oh, yeah, okay. This is just fucked up. I mean, like I said, this just goes on and on. Portraying him as, the brother and a nice guy, and yeah, it's just all fucked up. And then we go into NBC and look at the narrative that they're trying to portray here. Okay, Las Vegas shooter sent girlfriend Mary Lou Danley away to spare her, sisters say. That is some fucked up shit. The Las Vegas gunman bought his girlfriend a ticket to the Philippines and sent her away to spare her life, her distraught sister said Wednesday. Bullshit! It's not even like, say, his sibling saying this. It's her sibling. Yeah, right. Stephen Paddock brought Mary Lou Danley a cheap ticket to her home country 2 weeks before he opened fire on a country music concert in the Las Vegas Strip. A cheap ticket? To fly to the Philippines on 2 weeks' notice, I'm going to guess one way. Definitely over $1,000. I'm going to say probably $2 grand, maybe more. That's a cheap ticket? Okay. Investigators believe Danley, 62, will return to the United States late Tuesday, escorted by FBI agents. Could fill in some of the blanks as to why Paddock assembled an arsenal of guns and killed 58 people before committing suicide. An arsenal of guns that doesn't make sense unless you're talking about a group of more than one person. Okay, if you're talking a group of one, that makes absolutely no fucking sense. So I'm not buying the official story there, because he would just need a couple rifles, maybe one additional one for a backup, when I'm thinking one of the 2 rifles is a backup, 2 pistols, and maybe 2 tops as backups. I mean, that's like bringing in 1 suitcase worth of shit you could fit it in. Like, just the weapons. Alright, you might need another suitcase to load your ammo, but you could do it so inconspicuously. I mean, there's no way he got all these fucking weapons in there like they're trying to claim. But Well, he could fill in the blanks on why he assembled an arsenal. She could fill in the blanks and assemble an arsenal and kill 58. I love that. He didn't commit suicide. You have people from the actual agencies come out and say, no, we killed him. I want to believe them over this shit. Investigators believe the couple lived together in Mesquite, Nevada. Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo described Danley as a person of interest. In a brief statement read Wednesday by her attorney, Danley said she was devastated by the deaths and injuries on the Strip. I knew Stephen Paddock as a kind, yep. Repeat of what I said from the other article. Although, you know, I mean, it's just the same shit. He never said anything to me or took any action that I was aware of that I understood as a warning that something horrible like this was going to happen. Her sisters who live in Australia believe she knew nothing of Paddock's deadly intentions. Okay, but they were in Australia. She was in the Philippines. What the fuck? How is this even remotely relevant? This is about feels. This is about pushing a narrative. This is about going, oh well, this woman had nothing to do. She wasn't radicalized. She you know, let's find out. Okay, I dare one of you in the mainstream press report on where the fuck she's from in the Philippines. I dare you. Because the way that you're trying to avoid that, like the bubonic plague, I'm guessing it's from the south, and she's possibly ethnically, you know, or religiously a Muslim. It's not quite ethnic there. It's not like Middle Eastern Muslims, which incidentally share the same genealogy for the most part as Israeli Jews, as Jews native from that region. So I just don't buy it. I'm not buying this shit. She didn't even know that she was going to the Philippines until Steve said, Mary Lou, I found you a cheap ticket to the Philippines. One of the sisters, who spoke on condition that they not be identified, told NBC's Australian partner, Channel 7. Which is kind of funny. Because she could easily be identified because there's like, how many sisters? Just several? I mean, she was sent away, the woman said of Danley, so that she will not be there to interfere with what he was planning. She added that with the sister out of the way, Paddock could plan with... Yeah, let's cover for her a little bit here. I ain't buying this shit. I'm not buying this shit. The sister's doing the hard sell, and when someone does the hard sell, they're hoping that they're going to convince you. In that sense, I thank him for sparing my sister's life, but that won't be able to compensate for the 59 people's lives, she said. Oh my God. Paddock, 64, wired $100,000 to an account in the Philippines in the week before Sunday's shooting, senior law enforcement officials told NBC News. Yep. They haven't said whether the money was for Danley and her family or for another purpose. Oh, I don't know, like ISIS, considering that they are a problem there. I love how they try to say now that, oh yeah, well this is money to buy a house and he didn't specify. Bullshit. Officials have said that Paddock gambled with at least $160K in the past several weeks in Las Vegas casinos. Okay, that's a lot of fucking money. Where's this money coming from? This is almost like, I hate to say it, but this is almost like an asset going through and blowing off steam, which the jihadis do a lot of similar stuff, because they'll go and do the same types of things like visiting strip clubs or gamble, things of that nature. They'll go and do those things because they know in the name of jihad, their deaths, they're absolved from everything. Yeah. So to me, that's not surprising. A former boyfriend of one of the sisters, Adam Lefevre, told NBC News that Danley had 2 previous marriages, one to a boxer in Australia and the other to an American, before meeting Paddock in a casino. LaFavre said that Danley, a Catholic devoted to her family, was very different than Paddock, a methodical casino gambler who used algorithms and spreadsheets. Oh, so now she's supposedly a Catholic. I don't know. Well, she might have been radicalized. I don't know. I just ain't buying this official story here. She's not very confident, LaFavre said. She had a little Subaru Forester, and she would go 3 blocks out of her way so she didn't have to turn left or cross a big intersection. I actually know women like that. I'm sorry, that's why I'm laughing. Oh, I thought that was unique to I should say I know a woman that does that, and I thought it was unique to her. I guess not. I wouldn't say their relationship was lovey-dovey, he speculated. It always seemed to me to be one of convenience. Which, this is a guy who's a former boyfriend. I mean, this is like, I shit you not, this is like Spaceballs type sourcing for like stories, okay? Your brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews. This is what that literally is right there. I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. LaFavre said Paddock shared with him how he was a success at gambling, saying he would operate with a pool of money of $1.5 million. Okay, bullshit. Just trying to push this gambling fucking narrative like you are. Because we can't have him blowing 160 fucking grand right before committing jihad, okay? And admit that, because, you know, if you go and you do jihad, all your sins are wiped away. We can't even look at that. So let's push this bullshit fucking narrative of him playing with $1.5 million worth of fucking money. He don't have $1.5 million worth of money, nor is he a successful gambler. Why? Because he's playing fucking slot machines. He's playing video poker. He's not playing... This is the type of bullshit that pisses me off with the mainstream press. He's playing suckers rackets, okay? He's playing against a machine. He's not playing against an individual. I ain't buying this shit. I'm not buying it. He would gamble for hours, come home, take a nap, and then go back. I'd say, how'd it go? He would say, I just dropped 20 grand or I'm up 86 grand. He approached it like a business. Bullshit. LaFavre described the shooter as a very reserved and non-emotional person, a motive person. His investments, his gamblings were all done with military precision, LaFavre added. I mean, okay, military precision sounds like a talking point to me. Sounds like you're trying to set things up here. Separately, a worker at Starbucks in Mesquite told the Los Angeles Times that she and her colleagues winced whenever the couple came in because Paddock would frequently berate his much shorter partner in public. He was so rude to her in front of us, Esperanza Mendoza, the store's supervisor, told the newspaper. He would glare down at her and say, with a mean attitude, you don't need my casino card for this. I'm paying for your drink, just like I'm paying for you. Then she would softly say, okay, and step back behind him. Oh, wow. I don't know. Because, oh, we're going to portray this as a misogynist, and this guy was a fucking on the left. I highly doubt, being on the left, he was treating her that way. This is like, oh no, we're going to portray him as misogynist and sexist. We're going to try to make him sound like he's on the right, because all the good stuff is comes from the left. Oh my God, you people are fucking pathetic. Her sister said that Danley, who moved to the United States in 1989, would most likely have stopped Sunday's massacre if she had been there, adding that Danley was in love with Paddock. No one can put the puzzles together, she said. No one except Mary Lou, because Steve is not here to talk anymore. Only Mary Lou can help. Yep, Danley probably was even more shocked than us because she is closer to him than us. I love this. They're trying to portray it as she's sweet and innocent, and I ain't buying it. Not buying it. I mean, because just look. Alright, NBC News. Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock wired $100,000 to the Philippines last week. Okay, $100,000 in the Philippines. That would give you money to buy, like, the idea of what a mansion would be here, or a McMansion. That's fucking huge. That's a huge ass fucking house there. But yeah, look at, oh yeah, it's just for her to buy. I mean, they're trying to portray this as what it isn't. It's so fucking disgusting. I mean, look at the Daily Mail here. Vegas, just to prove my point. Vegas shooter's girlfriend is met by FBI at LAX as she returns from the Philippines in a wheelchair after police reveal that she's a person of interest. But she insists her conscience is clear. Why the fuck is she coming back in a wheelchair? Oh, could it be for sympathy? Mary Lou Daly, the girlfriend of Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock, was met by the FBI at LAX on Tuesday. She considered a person of interest when Paddock was gunned down. Yep. Daly, believed to be an Australian citizen, had been in the Philippines for 10 days before the shooting. Yep. Her sisters claimed that Paddock sent her away prior to the shooting. Okay. Investigators say that Paddock transferred $100K. Okay. Paddock was known for berating his girlfriend at local Starbucks. Oh, God. All this shit is just basically rehashed stuff from the other article. Okay, so they're still trying to push this fucking narrative. All these bullet points are literally the same exact fucking shit that was in the New York Times article. That will be in any article you'll find. I mean, oh, but at least they throw in the fact that he was on Valium, which makes people become aggressive and go a little, you know, a little fucking nuts. So at least they covered that part. That's kind of new. And this whole thing with the cameras, okay, the people I can see, but the service cart, I ain't buying because someone from the hotel staff would have saw it and they would have wheeled it away. It's that simple. I ain't buying the shit on the cart. I'm just not buying it. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, the reason why I'm going into this here right now is, I mean, look at it. He's solemn. He's in Vegas. He's there being a president. He's being presidential. And no matter what, that isn't going to be good enough for the left. I mean, it's fucking disgusting. But, I mean, yeah. I might go into this article itself a little bit further alone because the stream, we're already at an hour and 23 minutes and it's 5:16 in the morning, so I should probably get through this a little quicker. This is the one that this is one of the ones I definitely wanted to show. Okay. I'm just hoping to catch the cool. Don't do it. All right. Oh, you're going to do it. The latest. Shop owner recalls visit by Vegas shooter. And this is from October 5th. The latest on the mass shooting in Las Vegas, all times local. Okay, 6:10 p.m. A Texas firearms dealer who had sold handguns to Las Vegas gunman Stephen Paddock in 2010 and 2011 remembers him coming into the shop last year with girlfriend Mary Lou Danley. Which, how the hell does he remember the guy coming back in 2016, a year later, even with the shooting and all that? And supposedly it sounds like you make it sound like, oh yeah, he was buddy-buddy with him because he sold him guns in 2010 and 2011. Paul Peddle, who owns B&S Guns in Garland, Texas, said Wednesday that Paddock didn't buy anything on most recent visit, but asked about a way to modify a gun to make it easier to pull the trigger. Which now they're going to try to conflate lowering the pounds per square inch that it's going to take to pull the trigger. They're going to try to portray that as a completely different situation than what it is. It's just fucked up. I mean, you got them saying, oh yeah, no interest in guns here. Brother of Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock says that he's not seen his brother for 20 years and they were not communicating. Okay, Paddock and, yeah, Tucson, Arizona. Yeah, so they go through here. It's all kind of a rehash of the same thing, but the title, and this is what gets me, is Gun Shop Owner Recalls Visit by Vegas Shooter. And you look into this, okay? They make it sound like this is some big fucking smoking gun. And it ain't shit. Okay, now look at the Daily Mail. They've got the body cam footage thing here like they were talking about from the other article. Which is edited together. I mean, how can you trust it? Raw footage is one thing because it's just on. You know, you turn it on, it starts recording, and away you go. But this edited shit, oh, let's do a compilation video. That just makes you look fucking stupid. Now, this is from Paul Joseph Watson. I know people are going to say InfoWars and go, but it's Paul Joseph Watson himself. Okay, and he's reposting something from Facebook about someone saying how they served the fucking whack job room service, and there was someone else there. Now, to me, that would be something that I would think that you would want to get out there. I mean, here are the copies of the receipts. Here's the tweet. I mean, the Facebook post. So, when that's being the case, you're kind of screwed. I don't care what you say. But, I mean, the thing is you just look here. All right? You're screwed at trying to push that narrative. If this guy will swear on a stack of Bibles to what he saw and could be put into protective custody, and probably be, you know, I think that would be a thing to do. It's just because this guy could blow this shit wide open. And again, another Paul Joseph Watson, which I only went for this for the video, okay?
You know, you heard me say that we're comfortable that we have the suspect in custody, but something more may come of that investigation. And I want to understand the motivation that you described, okay, to prevent any future incidents. And, you know, did this person get radicalized unbeknownst to us? And we want to identify that source.
Now, I mean, he's talking about the radicalization situation. They don't want to admit that he was radicalized, even if they get him. They're going to try to avoid it. It's going to be like trying to sidestep a landmine. And this is a big-ass landmine. All right, this is like a bouncing Betty, take out a whole squadron landmine. This is like a super Betty. Now, as I said with Steve Bannon, I agree with him on this. Steve Bannon, it will be the end of everything if Trump supports gun control. And he's dead on with that one, okay? Former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon predicted President Trump's base would quickly abandon him if the president pivots on gun control after the Las Vegas massacre. Oh, yeah. Impossible will be the end of everything, Bannon told Axios. Bannon expects Trump's base would react harsher towards the president if he backs gun control than they would if he announced his supported amnesty for illegal migrants. Yeah. If he announced that, people would probably... But the whole gun control thing, no. That causes people to foam at the fucking mouth. Because it's a hot ticket issue. It's a hot button item. Trump said early Tuesday that he'll talk later about the gun reform. We'll be talking about gun laws as time goes by, Trump told reporters as he left the White House to survey damage in Puerto Rico. Trump's comments came 2 days after 64-year-old Stephen Paddock opened fire on a country music concert in Las Vegas, killing 59 people and wounding another more than 500 others. So, I mean, this should give you a clue. I mean, Bannon, he's got his fingers on the pulse of the country, like Trump supporters and such. And, you know, we've got Australia trying to chime in on this, which is kind of funny. Because they don't look at the fact that they're isolated. Okay? They try to ignore the fact that their crime hasn't dropped. Okay? Like, say, murders and stuff like that. Just the weapons have changed. So they want to lecture the United States? They can go fuck themselves. I mean, look at this. Australian Foreign Minister Julie Bishop is sharing some advice to the United States on gun control in the wake of the Las Vegas mass shooting. Bishop credited Australia's National Firearms Agreement, which outlawed semi-automatic and automatic weapons, as well as their gun buyback program for the country's lowered gun violence rate, enacted following a mass shooting at Port Arthur in 1996. And I love the particular choice of words here. Okay? Lowered gun violence rates. Didn't lower the rate of violence. It just lowered the rate of violence using guns. People are still going to kill people. When asked if she was able to share Australians' experience with the U.S., Bishop indicated that that sort of discussion could take place. This will most certainly rise again a whole debate about U.S. gun laws, Bishop said Tuesday on Australia's 7 network, Sunrise. This is just some fucked up shit. We can offer our experience and just the mass killings at Port Arthur. Oh my god. They're still cashing in on that fucking capital, political capital. It's just disgusting. Oh, that is so disgusting. Now, this comes from right after the Orlando nightclub shooting. And it's just as pertinent today as it was, okay? Because, I mean, when you've got celebrities like Ariana Grande going, we need gun control. And, you know, she's got armed security. That's some fucked up shit. Pop singer Ariana Grande called for stronger gun control following the Las Vegas mass shooting Sunday. My heart is breaking for Las Vegas. We need love, unity, peace, gun control, and for people to look at this and call what it is, terrorism. Oh, so she'll call this fucking terrorism. The little bitch will call this shit fucking terrorism. But when an actual factual fucking jihadi shows up at her concert and literally blows shit up, not all Muslims. Hashtag that. Oh, wait, I think you did. Hashtag not all Muslims. I think you did that after. The Las Vegas shooting is the largest in U.S. history. No, modern history. Alright, but you get them calling for gun control. You get this guy, alright, he runs a deli, saying he's a co-owner. He apologizes after tweeting Vegas shooting was community outreach. This is the delusions of the left. Alright? This is some fucked up shit. They're sweating because this probably really hurt his business. Alright, now this article from the Red State, as I said, was going back to Orlando, but what it says rings true today. It's no different. The Founding Fathers would not have objected to assault weapons, weapon ownership, or any weapon at all. From the Islamic terrorist attacks on Orlando, Florida catering, so reports say, mainly to homosexuals, a garden industry has sprung up, trying to convince the credulous that the Founding Fathers, the authors of the Second Amendment, could never have contemplated ownership of AR-15 when writing the Constitution. The second part of the argument is that the Constitution did not contemplate the ownership of weapons of war. Both arguments are superficial, shallow, and stupid. I think it's supposed to be both arguments are superficial, shallow, and stupid. Let's visit the stupidest of the stupid. A guy named Christopher Ingram, a Washington Post reporter, writes, "What arms looks like when the Second Amendment was written." Before going further, I want to make two observations. First, his contribution appears on the Washington Post feature called Wonk Blog. Wonk, if you didn't know it, is a term that the left gives to young failed male liberal arts grads in order to make other people think they're smart. Ingram's qualifications to write about firearms and American history are immense. From his LinkedIn profile, yep. Okay, so you look at this here. I mean, it's. I agree with it 100%. I mean, this is his argument. Of course, semi-automatic firearms technology didn't exist in any meaningful sense in the era of the Founding Fathers. No, it did. You had a precursor to the Gatling gun. Fuck off. They had something much different in mind when they drafted the Second Amendment. The typical firearms of the day were muskets and flintlock pistols. They could hold a single round at a time, and skilled shooter could hope to get off 3, possibly 4 rounds a minute in firing. By all accounts, they were not particularly accurate either. By evolving technology does call for evolving regulation, and in practice, implementation of the Second Amendment has never been strictly absolute. Most gun owners accept that civilians typically can't own. No, this is bullshit. That's because you assholes have slipped shit in with your reasonable gun control bullshit. So most gun owners accept that civilians typically can't own fully automatic rifles or tanks or nuclear weapons. Bullshit. Our understanding of the arms of the Second Amendment should have evolved over the years, subject to shifts in political and legal norms. No! Bullshit! And here's why, you fucking shitbrick. The Constitution is not a living document. What it says is what it fucking says. You don't like it? Then shut the fuck up. Or get the fuck out of the country and go someplace that has the same ideological beliefs as you. It's that fucking simple. First, the founders were one of the most amazing groups of men to ever inhabit the same geological space at the same time. To say that they did not anticipate advances in firearms beyond the flintlock musket is simply ludicrous. Yes, in fact, during their lives, weapons were beginning to improve markedly. During the American Revolution, a few hundred Ferguson rifles, a breaching flintlock rifle, were used by the British Army, and it seems some loyalist North Carolina troops, the founders of at least George Washington, who faced some Ferguson-equipped troops at Brandywine, would have been aware of this advance. Yeah, exactly. Would have been aware of it. You have an air rifle from 1779 that allows multiple shots. I mean, you have a lot of examples in this article from Red State. Okay. I mean, let's just now go into closing here, because I think I've covered what I really need to. Alright, he's dating this guy, the whack job. He's involved with a Filipino, or I should say Filipina, or Filipinx. Don't want to mislabel her gender. But anyway, she comes from a country where less than 2 years ago, 14 dead as Islamic rebels attack. Okay, even USA Today had to report on this. And that's just one example. Okay. You've got the Philippines, the next safe haven for terrorism. This came out from the Blaze. Alright, I can't believe this fuckwit that used to be on Fox outscooped people. I really don't get it. And it is the next safe haven for terrorism. It's a terrorist hotbed, which is why we're helping the Philippine army fight ISIS there. Alright, they've had a Muslim problem for a really long time, okay? And they try to say that what Pershing said is fake. It comes from his own, and this even says it, it comes from his own manuscript for his autobiography. Alright, and he talks about that shit. So, I mean, obviously, there's been a long-standing problem with Muslim Islamic extremists. There's a problem with it. Which they're trying, oh no, that's one reason why they're like, oh no, Pershing didn't say that. Alright. Time magazine. ISIS is making inroads in southern Philippines and the implications for Asia are alarming. Okay, this was written on April 14th of 2016. Alright, and it talks about the fact of the invasion of southern Philippines, a city of Zamboanga. Okay, and how heavy days of fighting with security forces. I mean, you've got this here. We'll get Time having to report that is the case with it, okay? You've got Jihad Watch, Philippines, Islamic State forces women to become sex slaves and orders hostages to convert to Islam. And this is the country that she flew into. Then you've got Philippines confirms communication between Islamic State and Syria and local affiliate. I mean, that's just some serious fucking shit. But no offense, I'm not even going to necessarily believe it was the Russians because you guys can fucking make anything look any which way you want. But, yeah, so this is some fucked up shit where we're arming them, we're training them, we're handing them shit over, we're handing them a fucking country. Alright, this is from June 13th. Destroying a Philippine city to save it from ISIS allies. That makes absolutely no sense. We're going to destroy a city so that we, are fighting the bad guys. No, if you destroy your own city, you become the bad guys because you can't pick and choose where your moral code goes. Sorry, it don't work like that. But, so you have it here with this article. I mean, they're talking about the siege and everything else and how the Muslims had taken control. So it's just going to take a situation where you have the Philippine army and military police and civilian police coordinating together. I think that's the only way that they're going to take care of their problem in the Philippines. I really do. But this stream is on almost an hour and 45 minutes. I've kind of vented and covered pretty much everything I wanted to. So anyway, if you like the stream, definitely hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more of my content, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you all for watching.